Okay, so as many of you know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And throughout the years, this month has meant more and more to me, because I have publicly said a couple of times that I am a survivor of sexual assault, and it's been a difficult journey of the time that my sexual assault happened to now, from trying to forget the memory to now having processed and still processing it, and coming from victim to now a survivor. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share publicly my story. I do want to say that this is a trigger warning for those that have been sexually assaulted or know someone that have been sexually assaulted. So please, just know that I'm not going to go into explicit details as to what exactly happened, but just know, have precautions when watching this video. I'm sure there's other wording for it, but just a disclaimer, this video may trigger some individuals. Before I begin, I do want to give thanks to Grace Bible Church. They helped me start processing the trauma that I experienced, and seeking God to help process everything and building a better relationship with Him. I would love, big shout out to Hiking My Feelings. Grace Bible Church and Hiking My Feelings, both of those organizations helped me tremendously on this journey. Of course, with Grace Bible Church, I developed a relationship with God to help with my trauma. Hiking My Feelings, they helped me process my trauma as well, but through nature and specifically hiking. So big shout out to Grace Bible Church and Hiking My Feelings. Friends, family, my husband, for being supportive and being there for me. My sisters, Eva and Nancy, we've been through thick and thin. I would not be here without everybody that I just mentioned. I know I may be missing some more people, but the huge shout outs were to Grace Bible Church, Hiking My Feelings, my husband, my family, my parents, my sisters, Eva and Nancy, and many, many others. You know who you are. Thank you so much. You've been a true blessing. And Doc Peace, I can't leave you out. Doc Peace, thank you so much for your inspiration as well, and encouraging me also to speak my truth, speak my story. Now to get into it. Back in 2007, wow, I thought I had gotten over the crying part. I feel the tears coming on, but I mean, it is what it is, and like I said, it's still a process. I'm still processing the trauma. So back in 2007, I met a guy at a local club, His name was Carlos. I'm not going to disclose his last name, but his name was Carlos. We kicked it off great. We went on a couple of dates as normal, you know, the normal dating thing to do. And I mean, I thought we were off to a good start. It was he was charming. He was really, really nice. The times that we went out, he would pay for everything. Like, I was like, wow. And he was very polite, open the door, y'all know, all the good stuff. One night, the night of May 2nd, 2007, he asked me to go out with him to a local bar together with his sister. And I was like, sure, of course. Like, yeah, let's go out. At this bar, we got a table. He got us a table. We had bottles. He was purchasing bottles for our table. And I trusted, like I said, we had already been dating for a while now. I trusted him with making my drinks. I wasn't closely paying attention to how much he was pouring of what. He would just be like, oh, here, I made you one, here and here. And of course, I was drinking them. I got really intoxicated that night. And we had taken my car to the bar. So afterwards, of course, he drove. He drove, but we ended up going to his house, and the drinking continued there. I was already out of it. He kept on telling me like, oh, here's a beer, have a beer, have a beer. And I was like, no, it's okay. He's like, come on, have a beer. So of course the peer pressure, I guess, the pressure into wanting him to think that I can have a good time. So I had a beer or two, I think. And I had asked him if I can use the restroom. We were hanging out in the front of his house. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll show you where it is. Now I was stumbling by this time. I couldn't walk. My first instinct was to go towards the front of the house, because that's how you're entering the house. I had never been inside his house. So I tried walking towards the front of the house, you know, wanting to go to the restroom. And he wraps his arms around my waist, and he's like, no, it's this way. Of course, like I mentioned, I trusted him. So I was like, okay, that's fine. It's this way. So he ended up walking me down the driveway towards the back of his house, and we ended up entering the house through the back. We went in, and I thought he was walking me over to the restroom, and he ended up taking me to his room, and he just sat me on the bed. And because I was so out of it, so intoxicated, I just fell back. And that's when the incident happened. It was we left the club at 2 when they closed, so this was already 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I think. I fell back on the bed, and that's when he started sexually assaulting me. I remember saying, stop. I remember saying no multiple times. But I couldn't move. I couldn't fight him off. I couldn't. I was in and out of it. I would say stop and no a couple of times, and then I guess I would pass out, and then I'd wake up and he was doing something else to me, and I kept on saying no and stop, and then I'd knock out. It was just, whew. And while all of this was going on, the music, he had music playing and it was blasting. It was so loud that I thought, well, maybe he can't hear me, and that's why he's not, like, I was already somehow making excuses in my head as to, well, maybe he didn't hear me say stop, or maybe he didn't hear me say no. But I haven't sought therapy for this. I haven't sought any counseling for this. I'll get to that in a second. But I don't know if in my mind I was already, like, I found myself at that time making excuses like, oh, well, like I said, maybe he can't hear me because of the music or whatever. But the parts that I remember, I know I said stop. I know I said no. One of the times I know that when I woke up, I was close in proximity to his ear, and I said it multiple times, so it's not like he couldn't hear me. Wow. So the sexual assault was going on, and out of nowhere I hear a loud baby cry. I heard a baby cry through the loud music that was blasting already. And that's what kind of, I don't know, snapped me out of it, I guess, or something. I remember him getting up, like pushing me aside, getting up. And I remember turning and looking, and there was a crib right next to the bed where he was sexually assaulting me. He leans over to the crib and he picks up a baby. I'm assuming that's his son. I don't know. At that moment, I wasn't thinking, oh my gosh, there's a baby next to us or anything. All I know is that he stopped, he got up, he was distracted with the baby. I knew that that was my time, my moment to get up and get away. By the grace of God, I somehow managed to find my clothes. It was dark. There's very, very little light. I somehow managed to find my clothes. I remember I crawled slowly behind him so that he wouldn't hear that I was walking or making any noise. I found the restroom. I crawled to the restroom. I put on my clothes. I had my phone, and I called a friend, and I don't remember the exact words that I told him, but I told him that I had just been sexually assaulted. And I remember him telling me, get the hell out of there, I'm gonna send you some help. So I managed, again, by the grace of God, I managed to somehow get up. I remember I barely opened the door to see if he was still there. Oh my gosh. He was still attending to the baby. His back was to me. So I was able to sneak away and go out through that back door that we had come in through. And I didn't make any noise or anything. So as I was trying to walk fast down the driveway, a dog just jumps out of me on the side and he starts barking at me. I freaked out, and I'm thinking that I had to stop the video for a little bit because I have the camera up on the dashboard, and I got a warning, it's getting too hot, you can't record anymore until it cools off. So I put the shades on, and that's why I had to cut. Back to where I was at, I was able to get out of the house through the back. As I was coming out, making my way down the driveway, I was trying to walk fast. Out of nowhere, a dog jumps out, starts barking at me. I freaked out. I think that's what woke me up a little bit more. And I also think that that's what set off Carlos, alerted Carlos that I wasn't there anymore. Because right after that, of course, after the dog jumped at me, I kept walking towards my car, and I can hear him coming after me. And he's like, "Hey, Michelle, hey." And I'm thinking to myself, something's gonna happen. And I couldn't react, or I was afraid to say help or anything, because when we got there and we were at the front, like having beers and all that stuff, his brother was there with us. His sister was no longer there, she had already left, but his brother was still sitting out at the front of the house. So I didn't know that if I said something to his brother, like, "Hey, your brother just did this to me," or whatever, what if both of them would have done something to me? I mean, I don't know. A lot of these sexual assault incidences, a lot of the women end up getting sexually assaulted, then killed. I mean, or beaten. And I was just, I remember he came up to me, his brother was sitting there. I got to my car and he's like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I remember him telling him, "I'm fine. I just want to go home. I'm going to go home." "No, but stay. Are you sure? Are you sure you're okay?" Like, and I kept on telling him, like, "Yes, I'm fine. I'm just trying to play it cool because I just needed to get the hell out of there." And he was like, "Okay, I'll call you tomorrow." And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I just want to go home. I'm going to go home. So I had the keys to my car. I took off in my car. I remember driving. I don't remember leaving his house and getting to my apartment. I was still out of it. But I do remember getting to my apartment. My friend that I called, he called a close friend of mine, Christina. She showed up. And I just remember she showed up. She was holding my hair back because I had my hair down. She was holding my hair back. I was just constantly throwing up. I was all over the place. She called the police. The police showed up. They tried asking me questions. I answered whatever I could because I was still intoxicated. I was really, really drunk. I was really, really out of it. So they ended up, I think I went by ambulance or cop car. I don't remember that part either. But we ended up going to a hospital here in Laredo, the only one that does the rape kit. And they had asked me, "Do you consent to a rape kit?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So the nurse, they only had one nurse practitioner or nurse, I'm not sure, but there was only one person that was I think, trained to do so. So it took a little while for her to get there and all this other stuff. But they did the rape kit on me. And I remember asking her, do you see? I was worried. Duh, I was worried. I was scared. Do you see anything? Is there anything? I'm just trying to get information, because of course this is the first time. This is the first time I've ever had a rape kit done. I don't know what to expect. These tests and swabs and this and that. I was like, what? Do you see anything? What exactly are you looking for? And she was explaining to me that, okay, I see cuts, I see bruises, I see this, I see that. The more that she would tell me what she would see, the more it made it real. Like I don't want to cuss, but this actually happened to me. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have gotten so drunk? How could I have allowed myself to be in this position, in this situation? After the rape kit, the police were still there. They asked me if I wanted to file a report. I did. They gave me an interview, and they told me that an investigator would be assigned to the case, and they take it from there. I'm not sure how many days after, maybe it was the following day or a few days after, I get a call from an investigator. I'm not going to disclose his full name, only his first, Ruben. And he calls me. He's like, I need to meet with you. Can we talk about the case? And I was like, yes, sure. I was at work. So he came over. I explained to him what I remembered that night, that I want to go forth with charges, that if there's anything else that he needed from me, to please let me know. While all of this was going on between me and the investigator, like a conversation, I get a text from Carlos asking me, hey, how are you? I froze. I freaked out. I was like, sir, look, he's texting me right now. What do I do? He told me do not respond. He took note of it, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna bring him in for questioning, and I'll keep you posted. We'll go from there. I was like, yes. He gave me his business card, and so on. So in a couple of days went by, and I called the investigator because I hadn't heard from him at all anymore. And I was like, sir, is there a status on what they found on the rape kit? Is there a status on your interview? And he said, well, he's been giving me the runaround, but I'm gonna try to bring him in again in a couple of days. And I'm like, okay, sir, just please keep me posted. I want to know what's going on. I was the one calling ever since the first time that the investigator and I met. I never heard from him since. I was the one that was chasing after him, like, sir, what's going on? Give me a status. And that was it. After a while, he stopped taking my calls. And that's when I knew something was up. Something was off. You are assigned to my case to investigate what happened in my sexual assault. You're supposed to keep contact with the victim as to what's going on in the case. I mean, I don't know how that works, but I would think, hey, can we talk to you again or something? The investigator ghosted me. He flat out ghosted me. I kept calling him, no answers. I didn't know what the hell else to do. And I was like, well, maybe I'm just calling him too much. Like, I would call him like twice a day. I don't know if that's considered a lot. I mean, twice a week, I'm sorry. So, since my case was a sexual assault and I did everything that I was supposed to do with the police report and getting a rape kit and all that stuff, my case was also referred to the Texas Crimes Victims Unit, something like that. I hope I got the name right. Because they're a program that helps victims, I believe, of domestic violence as well, but for sure sexual assault, that provides counseling services, that pays for the rape kit, and so on and so forth. Like, it's help for the victim. I get a letter from them telling me that I'm being denied services. I felt like a punch in the gut that I was being denied services. If I had any questions to call them, I called immediately. I got this letter. You guys are not gonna help me. What's going on? Why? I did everything. Why? And they told me that they received the investigative report. And the investigator said that it was me that did not want to cooperate with the investigation. And therefore, he closed the case. Me, the one that was constantly calling him, the one that was always wanting to know a status on what was going on with my case. And he was the one that was ghosting me. I was the one that refused to cooperate, and that's why this program was denying me services. I threw up in the middle of that conversation with that representative from that program, and I told them that it wasn't true, and they said that they're sorry, that they have to go by what the investigator put, and that they cannot help me. So through that program, I was, like I said, denied therapy, counseling services, and I had to pay my own rape kit. I had to pay my own rape kit. How messed up is that? So after that, I went to SCAN. It's a local program here also that helps victims of domestic violence, sexual assault. That also helps with at least counseling services. I went to them. I showed them the letter that I got, that I was being denied over here at with the Texas Victims Crime Unit, and that I really needed help. I needed help to, I mean, you know, I look at what I just fucking went through. Sorry, I didn't want to mean a cuss, but and in a couple of days they called me back, and they also said, sorry, we can't help you. I was confused. I was angry. Why doesn't anybody want to help me? So I let my boss at the time was a lawyer. I let the wife of my boss know what happened, because I had kept it a secret. I didn't want to tell anybody. And the time that the investigator came to visit me at the office, my boss wasn't there. It was only me, so my boss had no clue about what was going on. And I told her what happened, and she got on the ball. She was on it quick. We went to she set up an appointment with me for me to meet up with somebody at the DA's office. To find out what exactly was going on with what happened with my case. I ended up meeting with an assistant district attorney. I explained to him the situation. She went with me, and there was other people there together with the assistant district attorney. I explained to them everything that I could remember, everything that I did, that I filed the police report. I did everything I was asked to do. And he told me, he's like, you make a good witness. Like, we can do something. We can do something. And I was like, oh my God, great. Thank you so much. I mean, we're getting somewhere, you know? And then a couple of days later, the same assistant district attorney that told me you would make a good witness, you're telling me everything, calls me, and he's like, we can't help you. I'm sorry. That's already 3. the Texans Victims Crimes Unit scan, and now the district attorney's office is telling me we can't help you. I was furious. I was frustrated. He was getting away with what he did. It just didn't make sense to me. I ended up finding out later through the grapevine, and I'm not gonna exactly say what the connection was, but I ended up finding out that there was a conflict of interest between the investigator and my rapist. That's why everything got flipped on me, to protect him, because of that conflict of interest. I had all my records, the police report, I had the denial letter, I had copies of pictures that he and I had taken, and I had everything filed. I was keeping my stuff in track. I had phone records of when I was blowing up the investigator's phone at the time that the case was still open and he wasn't taking my calls. I had everything. I found this out at work. And I carried that file with me everywhere just in case I got a phone call or something. I was always prepared. I remember I got out of work, went to a gas station, and I just threw away the file. I was done. I was over it. I gave up. There was nothing else for me to do. At this time, I still hadn't told family. I hadn't really told many friends. The only ones that knew were the one that I called and my friend Christina and that little group. But I was ashamed of it. I felt like I was coming down on myself harder because, like I said, like, how could I put myself in this situation? I should have known better. I should have not trusted. I mean, I was, you know, and I went in a downward spiral. My way of dealing with that trauma is that I became more sexually active. I didn't know at the time, but later on I realized that the reason why I became more sexually active was to try to bury the memory of being sexually assaulted. And I thought the more sexually active I became, the more that memory would get buried and buried and buried and eventually disappear. So I was self-destructing a lot in that way. My parents noticed a change in me. I felt ashamed in telling them, but I told them. And I remember my dad, he got really angry. Not angry at me, but really angry about how the justice system worked my case. At that time we had there was a new police chief at the police department. So my dad went straight to him, and I remember my dad calling me and he's like, I spoke to the chief, I'm here right now. He said that he will reopen your case. He wants you to come in. He wants to talk to you. And I know that this happened, I think this happened like maybe a year or two after the rape. And I appreciate that my dad wanted to get justice for me, and he went to the police chief and all that. But I was like, no, I don't want to, in my mind, reopen the wound, even though the wound was still open. I was like, Dad, I threw away everything. I just want to leave it in the past. Whatever happened, I just want it gone. And my dad respected my decision, my family respected my decision, and they left it. Time went by. A few years went by, and my boyfriend at the time and we Stained was coming to Laredo, so we bought tickets. We showed up at the concert, and we showed up early. We got to our seats, and of course people are still arriving. While we were sitting down, I mean, of course it wasn't completely full yet. People were still grabbing snacks and all that stuff. I turned around, and I want to say 6 rows behind us, Carlos was there. And he just smirked at me. He smirked at me knowing that he got away with what he did. I got chills. I started shaking. I couldn't speak. I just remember I tapped my boyfriend. He asked me what was wrong. I told him. He asked me, what do you want to do? I told him. In my mind, I'm thinking, if I leave, Carlos is gonna know that he got to me. If I leave, in my mind, I thought he won. So I told my boyfriend, I was like, let's stay. I'm gonna need to hold on to your hand, to your arm or something. And we left the whole concert, and right before the concert ended, we were the first ones out the door. And we left. And then years go by, and I was pregnant at the time. I was with the father of my son, and we went out on a date night with my sister-in-law at the time. And I really needed to go to the bathroom. I mean, I want to say 6-7 months pregnant, so bathroom trips are super common. So I needed to go to the bathroom, and he's like, can you go by yourself? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. So as I'm getting to the bathroom, there's Carlos. He doesn't see me, but of course, I got the chills. I was in shock. I froze. I went back right away. I told my father's son. He got extremely defensive, and I'm like, no, don't do anything. Let's just get the hell out of here. He respected my decision as well, and we left. And that was the last time, thank God, the last time that I saw him. The thing about me is that before Grace Bible Church, before hiking my feelings, I would bottle up a lot of the stuff that I was going through. I would cry for a little bit and okay, yeah, let's get over it, let's keep it moving. I didn't like dwelling. I didn't like crying. So like I said, I never processed my trauma because I never got the help that I needed at the time that I needed it. So because of all the bottling up that I did, it eventually would come out in like anger bursts. I was pretty much a ticking time bomb, and it affected my previous marriage. It was starting to affect my current marriage. This is why I love my husband. He was supportive about it, supportive about what I had gone through and all that stuff, and he knew that I needed help, but he respected that and waited until it came from me instead of being forced into getting help. And I'm glad that I finally recognized it and seeked the help that I needed. And I had a lot of issues with my relationship with God. That I wasn't close to the church for a really long time. And when it came to the sexual assault, like, where was God when I was getting sexually assaulted? Why would he let something like that happen to me? Why would he let my rapist get away with what he did? So, yeah, the relationship between me and God wasn't there. But I know that if I continued with the same mindset, I wasn't gonna get anywhere. So I gave God a chance. I went to I started attending Grace Bible Church, and I started a program there called Regeneration. And part of that program is coming to peace with the things that you have gone through, that have been done to you, and the stuff that you've done to others. Peace was not part of my vocabulary. I was always like just ready to claw somebody's eyes out. I was always on the defense. I know that when I was going through that, it was a women's group. The women would tell me, go to scripture, and I was like, I get it. I'm learning. I go to God's word for help. But I was new to rekindling my relationship with God. I was new to the Bible. You tell me to read scripture, I don't get it. Like, I understand, read this verse and it talks about anxiety and this and that. It's like, to me, it was like just reading it. I couldn't process it. So it was difficult for me to listen to those that were telling me, just read scripture, just read the Bible, and this will help you. Because I hadn't gotten there yet. I needed something else to make that connection, like I felt like there was a gap. So during that time, I knew I didn't want to give up on this. I knew I didn't want to push away from God again. So I started, I on my own, I was like, I need more resources. I need something else. So that's when I came across Hiking My Feelings. I first learned that it was a book, and then I learned that it was a nonprofit organization. But the book, the author, Sydney Williams, she talks about and how she uses the healing power of nature to help with her trauma, to unload her trauma pack. And I love nature. I love the outdoors. So I was like, maybe this is something for me. And then also I ended up learning that she was also a sexual assault survivor, and she used hiking as a way to process it. And I was like, thank you, Lord. for sending me this sign, not giving up on me. The timing was just whoa. So I ended up getting involved with the organization, and I started hiking. I just went on the retreat that I just posted on, honestly, like 2 weeks ago, the Catalina trip, the Trans-Catalina Trail, Catalina Island trip, that was organized by Hiking My Feelings by Sydney and Barry Williams, and the other hosts were Kaleo, Melanie Wasman. And I learned in my own way that in order for me to connect with God, it literally has to be me and God, but in the outdoors. Like, don't get me wrong, I love going to church, I love community, so I do check in every now and then, but I feel like that connection, that peace, when I'm in the outdoors with him. And that was thanks to Hiking My Feelings. So like I said, I felt like there was a gap between the connection, and I felt like Hiking My Feelings was that link that put us together. Even though Hiking My Feelings is not a religious organization, it's strictly just hiking and processing everything. Like, this is how I was able to link the two together for me. So I was able to unload my trauma pack. It's still a process. Before all of this, I was cold. I was cold-hearted. You cry, that means it's a sign of weakness. Now I cry for every little thing. Like, it opened up a box of emotion. It opened up a box of feelings. I'm finally feeling now for the first time in a very, very long time. And it's been a big drastic change from when I was back then and where I was now. And when I was trying to rebuild the relationship that I have now with God, together with the sexual assault, I've had previous trauma from a bunch of other things, but I always ask God, like I had mentioned earlier, like, why did you let me go through this? Why didn't you stop it? Like, where were you? Why? And because I'm stubborn, hard-headed, like, I want my answers. Like, God, like, why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? And I'm not justifying my sexual assault. I should have never been sexually assaulted, but now I see that sometimes bad has to happen in order for something good to come out of it. And I feel that bad was my sexual assault, but the good that came out of it is that I found my voice, and I'm using my voice to bring awareness to sexual assault. This is the first time I go publicly in the sense of worldwide, because this is on YouTube now. Everybody can find it, everybody's gonna know. But the few groups that I've spoken to and I have talked about my sexual assault, I've had women come up to me afterwards privately and have told me, like, you are so strong, you are so courageous, you are so brave for speaking out on something and using your voice when I haven't found my voice yet. You are our voice, and thank you. And you've inspired me and you're giving me hope. And I'm like, me? Well, what? Like, I'm just an average person. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not anybody special. But this is what I mean on how something bad happens so something good can come out of it. I went through this experience and now I'm using my voice to bring awareness to sexual assault. And if I got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 women to finally speak about it or something, like, damn, I moved people. I got people to start talking. I got people to not be shamed into silence. Like, I was shamed into silence for many years. I was shamed, I was embarrassed. And now, that's why I said from the beginning, I transitioned from being a victim and a survivor. Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't completely healed from it. It's still an ongoing process. I thought I was healed from it in Catalina, because when I was on Catalina and speaking to one of my friends, Alisia, I spoke about it and I didn't cry. And I was like, I just had a breakthrough. I hiked my feelings. Like, I processed it. And at the end of it, I was like, I'm gonna cry happy tears, but then I don't want to cry happy tears because I don't want it to be like I'm crying for this. So I was like, I processed it, yes. And then here I am on camera crying my eyes out. But I'm talking about it. I'm letting it out, which I think is part of the process. And although it still hurts, it's pretty damn good. But I've come from victim to survivor, and this whole week has really taken a toll on my body. I got sick. I don't know if subconsciously or something. This is the reason why, because I had already scheduled doing this video about a week or two ago for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and then the days before I'm recording this, I start getting headaches, I start getting dizzy, my blood sugar is dropping and then spiking, dropping and spiking. My vision starts getting blurry. It just took a toll on me. I don't know medically if there was actually something behind those symptoms, but now that I think of it, it's like, well, maybe I was just secretly freaking out about it or something. I don't know. But I reached out to one of my friends that's been checking up on me, well, Alisia, and I told her I need to get my story out. I need to. Because if I've helped a few women say something and tell me thank you and all, how many more can I help? But like I said, I couldn't have done this with the amazing support of Grace Bible Church. I couldn't have done it without hiking my feelings. Those two for me were a blessing. I couldn't have done it without my family, my husband, my friends. But it's time. I was raped May 3rd, 2007. And it's time that I use my voice to do something about it. If I can't seek justice for what was done to me, then I'm sure as hell gonna bring awareness to it and do everything that I can to help those that have been sexually assaulted. But this is my story. I'm glad I can share it, and it's still an ongoing process, but I'm using that fear, that anger, and turning it into something positive, using it as something that is also therapeutic for me and letting it out. And I hope that this inspires others to speak up, seek help, and do anything that they need to do to process their trauma and to get to where they need to be. So thank you so much for tuning in, and see you next time. Bye.